It's a bit dark.
If you see us, oh, we've had such a. There you go. If there's anybody here, if anybody's left waiting on us, you can see us. We have been trying for the past 26 minutes to get on this thing. We think it was our phone actually, because we are off grid, and so in the caravan we've got no internet. We've got no internet. So what we do is connect to the phone. Let me just plug this in if you can see us. So I don't know how good this will be for you, but what we do is connect our phones to the computers on 4G, and that then allows us to connect to you guys on the internet. So living off grid has its perks, but it also has its nightmares. Has its nightmares, as we've just found out. But by reloading everything, we've just gone through everything to make sure everything's right, and we've finally come on. So I think it's Saria. I think that's how you pronounce your name. Hurrah! You waited for us. Thank you so much, because it's so much appreciated. This is our first ever live. And we just wanted a really relaxed chat, you know, Dave. I'm not sure. Can you finally? Can you hear us okay? Is the picture okay? Is it jumping? I mean, we've no idea how this is coming across. If you could let us know, that would be fantastic. If you could type down in the chat box, that'd be brilliant. But we wanted to come on today. As you can tell, I do all the talking, but I'm trying to get Dave involved because we're sort of new to YouTube, so we've got to try and get chatting about the farm and what we're doing. Yeah. It's lagging slightly, but to be expected. That's all right. We're off grid. Really we're on. So that's all right. That's great. Thank you for that. That's really appreciated. So I don't know whether anybody else will bother coming on or find us or how this works, but we just wanted to come on and talk about if you I know you've been following us, I think, from the beginning, but 2019 and how we started the farm on a budget and what we have found is good and what we found is bad, and what we would do differently, if anything. And it's all bad. Don't do it. You lied. And no. Best decision we ever made so far. We're early days, really early days. So I'm 48, Dave's 55, and this is really our last shot at. Well, I say it's our last shot, I suppose. Most of our viewers were between the ages of 30. I mean, you've got all the time in the world. We're like, you know, in the autumn of our life. You know, you struggle getting out of bed in the morning. You know, you aches and pains, but once you're moving, you're fine. You can't see properly. You have to hold things like this, you know, to read seed packets. So my arms are not long enough anymore. Yeah, you've got to wear your glasses now, haven't you? So what we're trying to say is this is our last chance of making something really work. And it's taken us 8 years to get to this point. And we've just never given up, have we? No. And we've been, I mean, we are writing the whole story down because I honestly don't think most of you would believe what we've been through to get to this point. Right. But all I can say is if you have a dream or you have any inkling just to do something which is a little bit out of the ordinary, market gardening, we'd never done anything like this before in our lives. We're new farmers, is to just never give up and just go for it. We were literally rock bottom, penniless, had nothing, and we worked our backsides off. We didn't know anything about growing. We didn't know anything about farming. We'd grown up in the countryside, but we still didn't have the knowledge, and we still don't. We're learning every day. But what we did, we went and volunteered on some community and just the whole thing, really. Watched a lot of YouTube videos as well. We're endlessly watching YouTube videos. And actually, I've written down some of our inspirational channels that we watch. I would say we've watched loads of YouTube videos, but the 4 that really stand out this year in 2009 that's really helped us and encouraged us and just motivated us, because I think people need that motivation when they're starting out, because we were starting from a blank canvas. So to really be inspired, we watched No Till Growers, and that's with Josh Satin and Jesse. Brilliant. And they do the most amazing podcasts. And I'm always, when I'm on the field, I'm always got my earphones in listening to the podcasts. And some of them don't really affect what we're doing because we're slightly different. We grow, or we will be growing, microgreens, baby leaf salad, and edible flowers. And we're also doing cut flowers, which wasn't in our business plan, but we are now. So that will be interesting for 2020. See if it works. But the podcasts are just really fascinating. And if half of it doesn't really apply to you ever hear this, we're only a small channel, so I doubt if they'll ever listen to us. The other one was Liz Zorab at By the Farm. She's in, I think they're in Wales or somewhere over that way in the UK. And she's really, really good and really inspirational. And her and her husband have a small farm, and she's just really good at explaining stuff in a simple way. So that's a really good channel. You want to check that out. And probably the king of all kings of no dig gardening, Charles Dowding. Without his channel, without his books, I mean, we've got a bookshelf full of books, and you name it, we've got them. But Charles Dowding's video series and his book Gardening, Farming, and then my final one, which I really like because I really like roses, is Fraser Valley Rose Farm channel. And I really like that one because he goes into a lot of detail about how to propagate, how to look after roses, how to just get the best out of them. And that's one of my favourites. What's Dave doing?
I'm just reading.
This is old age. We've got to lean in to read the comments.
If you wanted.
It enough. Is. And that's the thing. So that I guess what I'm trying to say is YouTube has been an integral part of our journey, along with books and going to volunteer. And we're accepting volunteers on our farm. In fact, we need volunteers on our farm. So if anybody wants to come and volunteer, whether it's a couple of days, a weekend, a week,
a couple of hours,
we need them, because there's always jobs to do, and there's always things that you want to get done, you just haven't got the time. And then there's those jobs that you just need an extra pair of hands. I mean, that's right. How are we going to get the barn done? We've got a derelict barn to do up. Dave's got to do it, so I don't quite know how we're going to do that, but hopefully. we'll follow our journey on YouTube, and you can watch the ups and downs of everything. So
hopefully there'll be more ups than there are downs.
Hopefully there'll be lots of ups. We only want ups. That would be really good. So I guess our story, I don't know whether everybody knows our story, but we literally were rock bottom. We were like penniless. Absolutely penniless. Fortunately, to cut a long story short, we had a little bit of an investment come. The decision of what to do with that, whether we just carried on the treadmill of life and put it in the bank and be like a safety net, and it all happened after we turned plant-based. That's the top and bottom of it. So we decided to do something about our food. It was really important to do something about our food, and that's when we started thinking about where the food comes from, supporting local farmers, and just knowing where your food comes from and how to grow it. And that's when we started volunteering, and then we made that decision. I mean, it was a sort of almost an overnight decision. That's what we wanted to do. We loved it, and so the search was on, and we went to a charity who gives land to, well, you buy land off them, and it's held in perpetuity, etc. So it's safe, you're there forever, etc. And we did a 3-year process.
3-year application process.
3-year application process, 2 years intensive, and we were the only ones successful. We were really proud. But at the last meeting, again, I'm cutting this story really short because you don't want to know about this. And then at the last
Read it all in
meeting,
the book.
yeah, the book we're writing. So at the last meeting, we pulled out basically and was absolutely devastated, but we couldn't risk losing our life savings, our investment money. And so sometimes the hardest things in life can be a blessing. And this really is what happened to us, because we decided,
it turned out to be a blessing.
and we decided, you know, we'd spent this 3 years, 8 years into that in itself was like going to university. We learnt so much about growing, so much, because this is the top, didn't have masses. And so we wanted to make it work for us. What little we had, we needed to make work. And so we put an advert out, and
it was in some of the local, not local.
No, it was the organic sites, wasn't it?
Yeah. Farming or organic sites, and like Farmers Weekly and things like that. So that told our story, a brief story on the magazines, in the magazines.
Just about
actually ended up, we got 7 people.
That to start with.
Yeah.
But I think if we had done, we wouldn't have known enough to set the farm up. That's the truth.
Yeah.
We'd learn in that process of that application. We had learnt so much about business plans and how to farm and what reality is, because you have this idea of living the good life. And we're a bit like Tom and Barbara, if anybody's ever seen The Good Life. And you have this idea that it's all going to be roses round the door and you can just set up and it's absolutely fine on no money. And it just isn't the case. I mean, you can do it on a budget, a tight budget, but I really think, and especially with the microgreens, you could start in your house. So if you haven't got enough to go and get a piece of land, blah, 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 you could start in your house. And we're hoping, on the kitchen table. We started, our name on this channel was The Backyard Vegan, because we literally lived in a garage, our sister's garage, and we had a little table that was against the wall. The garage was 17 foot by 8 foot, I think, wasn't it? It was
9 foot.
9 foot. Yeah. Anyway, so what I'm trying to say is that microgreens started on our kitchen table, well, not kitchen, but garage table that David built that folded against the wall. And we were eating those microgreens for health while we were volunteering at the CSA farms and bringing home lots of free veg because we were volunteering. And that's where the interest came. So then Dave built a shed outside in the garden, in the backyard, and we started growing there. And what we wanted to do, part of the application, was we had to prove we could grow commercially and sell it. So it's all right growing the stuff, but it's up a little business just to see if the reality was the same as the dream. And it was
started doing quite well.
And we sold to like places like the big Best Western hotels. We had a couple of shops, had a health food shop, and we just literally went in and said, look, this is what we're doing. We have to do it for the application. Are you interested in the microgreens? This is what we have. Can we deliver to you? And we did a big New Year's party. So from the Backyard Vegan, which is where it all started, we then went to a local farmer and said, look, could we rent a little? I mean, we had no making any money on the micro, spare cash ourselves. And anyway, so when we approached the farmer, she said that we could have a piece of land to grow on in exchange for Dave doing a bit of work on her farm because she was elderly. So this was free land. So you can do that. You can go and offer some services, any services that you've got. That's, you know, you might be able to fix fences, or you might be able to look after ponies, or look after their animals while they're away, and they'll give you a little bit of land to grow on just to practice. And so we started growing on this land, and we started growing the microgreens. And then during the application process, we could prove then that we could not only grow successfully, and we had a lot of, you know, things go wrong, but a lot of successes. And then we could not only grow properly, but we could actually sell it. And that was so what I'm trying to say is that, you know, when you put your mind to it, you can do anything. And there's so much more resource out there on YouTube, in books, and people you can ask questions. And if you're not sure about things, you can find out things, can't you now? I mean, we've learned so much. So anyway, so the 3 years has been great because we learnt so much. So we don't really want to say it was a regret. It was time well spent, really.
It was. And one of the most important things that you really could do with concentrating on is a business plan. Do it on the hoof, as it were, and creating a business plan. It really opened our eyes to, you know, what is actually involved, because it makes you think so far ahead. Because we had to produce a 5-year business plan for the original application before we went on our own, and it really opened our eyes to, you know, where your priorities have got to be, and
how much you've got to.
Because of the microgreens are like a fast turnover, high profit, fast turnover. It did sort of surprise us as well at how little we needed to sell to survive.
Yeah,
you see,
yeah. Whether that could be done with just outside veg or maybe a polytunnel veg, I'm not sure. But definitely, if you were wanting to even dip your toe in to get some spare room, we didn't. Hence why we had to go on the table and in the shed. But if you've got a room in your house, the average temperature is around 18 to 21 degrees in a house with family and you know, like real baby steps through, so people can start their dream, because we've done it. We're here. Yeah. So we put this advert out. I'm going back because we're going off on a tangent again, which we always do.
Well, going back to the 7 offers that we had, actually
from all over the country, in the UK, all over.
As far as almost the Scottish borders, right down Wiltshire, a little bit further down than that. But some of the offers were for free land.
Yeah, free. There's places out there that will help you in return for a little bit of work, and you can negotiate how much, which is why we didn't go with it. But there's dairy farms that just wanted, when they were away on holiday, somebody to just keep an eye on things. There was a guy who was doing up a mansion and had land in mansion. And most places not let you just put a caravan or mobile home on a site without planning permission for temporary accommodation. And so unless the places already have that in place, you're not going to get it. It's such a shame, because there's so many people, I think, that want to start smallholding, or in America, homestead. And in the UK, you just can't put a caravan on a piece of land. You have to get planning. So if you are going to go down that route, you need to find somewhere that either or can get planning. So that's really important, because we found a couple of really good places, but we couldn't live on site. And for us, the main thing was we wanted to live on the small holding, so that we're able to grow and be on site at all times. So that was important.
And have the horses.
And have the horses, because at the time we've got the two horses. Yeah. So we had those to go and see a couple. We came down to Suffolk in the UK, drove through the gate, and literally, you know, people talk about manifesting their dreams and stuff. When we were going through the whole application process, we said, it's really good. Obviously, it was great what we were going for, because it was security, etc. But wouldn't it have been nice? And this is what we used to sit, didn't we? We used to sit and go, but if we could have anything, wouldn't it be nice to have 3 acres, and it had to be a square field? If we could choose, you know, as you do, 3 acres, square field, maybe a couple of extra acres for the horses, and a derelict barn to do up. And we used to sit and talk about this at night time, didn't we? And we'd go, oh, if we could have anything, you know, that would, this charity. But it wasn't the ideal. We were asking for the ideal. And lo and behold, we came through the gate that day, and the lady said, this is what I've got. I've got a 3-acre field. It's nice and square and flat. Oh, that was the other thing. It had to be flat.
Flat, yeah.
And there's another couple of acres for the horses down the bottom.
Us around. She was quite happy for us to have the caravan on there. And she was showing us all around the acres, the orchards and that's on site. And we walked past a derelict barn. And I said, oh, you've got a derelict barn there. And she turned round to me and says, why, do you want to do it up? So everything we asked for,
manifested. So we were like, oh my word, this is like spooky. Anyway, so it was the perfect. We've got a long-term farm lease, which gives us security, and it's fantastic. And we've had the help, and I think that's even if you've not got a lot of budget, I think having help really is key as well, because like little things like we needed to borrow a tractor. I mean, we're all hand tools growing, etc. But setting up the farm is the hardest bit.
Yeah.
So we needed the occasional tractor.